Welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast, strategies that help entrepreneurs build reputable and profitable brands. Here's your host, Henry Kaminski Jr.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Henry Kaminski here from UniqueDesignz.net with another Brand Doctor Podcast episode for you guys. Today, I have one of my LinkedIn buddies on today's show. Joe and I met via LinkedIn. I've been putting a lot of attention on LinkedIn recently, and so him and I connected there, and I started to sort of digest and consume some of his content that he was putting out there. And then I reached out to him and I said, dude, you would be an awesome guest for my podcast, and he happily accepted. And so without further ado, let's all welcome my man, Joe Gaspard from Joe Gaspard Coaching.
Hey, man, how are you? Thanks.
Everything's going great, man. So listen, for those of my audience that do not know who Joe Gaspard is, I want to take the first couple of minutes and kind of find out how you began your brand and your business in the first place.
So I was in the Army sort of when it all started. I was in Iraq in 2003, and I had my second collapse lung while I was there. So that ended my Army career.
Collapse?
I didn't want it. Yeah, I had a hole in my lung.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah. So had a hole in my lung, to be a little graphic, basically like your lung just fills up with blood. And that's bad. That's not what's supposed to go inside of them. So I wanted to save my military career. So I started just working out like mad, learning everything I could about health and fitness, trying to recuperate, trying to fix my own body. It didn't work. I mean, I fixed my own body, but I couldn't save my career. So I ended up in the fitness industry. And that took me from all the way out on the West Coast to here in New York City. Was working with, pretty cool. I had a pretty cool place that I was working with, running a studio in your Flatiron. If you're in New York City, you know where that is. Like cool paparazzi-proof place, A-list celebrities, CEOs, all this stuff. Ended up getting hooked up through this weird philanthropic experiment from someone I met in my training adventures, and he was just linking people up based off of the last 3 books that they read. So he wanted to do this social experiment with people who were on the self-improvement track. So he said, what 3 books, last 3, how-to books, basically, how to get better, how to sell more, how to do whatever books have you read? And I want to match you up with someone. And I got matched up with this billionaire real estate investor who we became friends, and we were talking about health and fitness and all the self-improvement stuff. And he just looked at me one day and he said, "You know what? I need to hire you to coach me because you know this stuff." And I was like, that sounds like a great plan. Here's you give me your credit card and I'll happily take money from you. So we went through that, and I created this program based off of what he was asking for. And I was, this guy's like, he's nuts, man. He runs like ultra marathons and does like double Ironmans, which are like, 240 something miles of activity. That's ridiculous.
Oh my God.
So I kind of got this unique insight into the way he was thinking and how he thought he could improve at the same time. And through that created, this idea of, okay, well, it's not just, health. It's not just fitness. I'm not just running my business. It's me. Everything is me and my mindset, and everything that I'm doing is going to improve myself and my business. And as you well know, as we've talked about, everything is mindset. And at the end of that program, when he was done, he said, okay, now we're going to go into business together. Here's money. Go create this and sell it. And Joe Gaspard Coaching was born in that way. It was completely unexpected. I wish I could say I had this, cool plan from when I was a kid. I was going to change the world. All I wanted to do was be in the Army and, go shoot at stuff. But here I am. So.
Wow, what an amazing story. And I love it because it was like right place, right time. You put yourself out there, you got around the right people, and you just and it reminds me of like the whole value first sort of philosophy that people are a lot of the successful folks are talking about these days, where when you provide value up front and you really showcase your superpower, if you will, that impresses people. And I know Joe Gaspar wasn't going out there and trying to impress everybody. He was just doing his thing. And eventually he found the right person that believed in him, and it went. So, so I don't like the word luck. I really don't, because I don't consider that lucky at all. I think it was right place, right time. I think it was you just staying in your lane. Everyone hears me talk about this and preach about this every single day. You stayed in your lane. You focused on what you were really great at. Just so happened that somebody with a lot of influence found it. And now, boom, it exploded. So I want to go into some mindset stuff. And I ask this question a lot to my audience because, like we said offline, emotion is what drives motion. And so if I talk to you or or by myself or anybody for 30 minutes about unemotional things, it's just wah, wah, wah noise. So I always try to ask emotionally provoking questions. So my question for you is this: when you're looking at your market, right? So you have a particular client that you like to serve. What is the biggest pet peeve you have right now with your market that's really grinding your gears, and that you've said to yourself, I am on a mission to help these people get over this, whatever that is? So can we talk about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a tough question, but it's also an easy one to answer. And that is, so most of my clients are mid-career. They've been in 10, 15 years. They're successful. They're making good money. They're on a track, and it's easy to get locked into that track. And it's easy also to get locked into old ideas about how business works, about how the cycle works, the sales cycle, the marketing cycle, like you said about value first. Like a lot of people, it's their mindset. Their mindset is stuck. Their thinking is stuck. Like that's the number one pet peeve. It's like, well, I've always done it this way, or this is the way that we've always done things, or I've done it like this before and it worked, and it's like, well, you're not in that situation anymore. When I was focused mostly on fitness, the thing I would get was, well, when I was in high school, I'm like, yeah, well, you're 45 and you got 3 kids and a 70-hour a week job now. So let's not do the things you did in high school. Like everything about your physical and mental body is different. Same thing in business. It changes every single day. Every single day there's a new social media app. There's like LinkedIn has changed just in the last couple of years since Microsoft bought it. New LinkedIn user interface, new they just launched their video program. So now there's all these different avenues, there's all these different things, and business is changing probably faster than I think we've ever seen it change, at least in my lifetime. If you go back and read some of the older books about sales and business, definitely that. So it's getting people out of that stuck mindset and getting them into the growth mindset.
And what do you think? What do you think? Like, is it comfort? Is it lack of confidence? Is it lack of knowledge? What's holding these folks back from excelling and exploding and really living their life with their full potential and taking things to the next level?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of all of those things that you said. It's, it's a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of confidence. It's this fear. I mean, some of it is, and probably a lot of it is, uh, we don't want to, I don't think rock the boat is right, but maybe that's sort of the best way to say it right now. That we don't want to rock the boat of our
So come out
friends
of the
and
comfort
family.
zone. Come out of the
Yeah, we don't.
comfort zone.
Yeah, we don't want to be that weirdo, We don't want to be the one that's like, no, I see this trend in business happening. I see this thing, sort of we get into uh, cliques just like we did in high school or whatever, like I'm a CrossFitter, I'm a this, I'm a that, and we get stuck in that. And I don't want to step outside of that because I'm probably going to lose friends and people might think I'm weird and I'll feel stupid. And, it's this fear of sort of stepping outside of that, like you said, comfort zone, and even probably a little bit beyond that, that uh, fear of the unknown, fear of, being a social outcast, fear of probably a million things. And I think it's different for everybody, but on some level, it's just you have this fear, you just don't understand it, and definitely you can help that through education. You can help that through, getting around the right people. Finding people who have already done the thing that you want to do. So yeah,
So that was my next question. So we've identified some of the things that may be holding these folks back into their comfort zone. Uh, I would love to get into some tactical stuff, I guess, if you will. Some tangible stuff that maybe you can provide our audience with to kind of help them overcome that. Because I've been that person. I've been that person that was always worried about what people were going to say about him, what they thought of him, and it's held me back. It used to hold me back. I used to be that guy that got easily embarrassed, and now after doing some mindset work myself, like the word embarrassment isn't even in my vocabulary anymore. And
right.
just by eliminating it, it has propelled my business. So let me shut up. I want to say, what are some things I want to ask? What are some things that we can do to sort of break through?
So I say the same. You'll hear me say this over and over and over again. Practice, 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 practice it. It's a practice. It took, I'm 42. It took me a lot of years to lock in some of these habits and these ideas, and this mindset got, embedded years ago, when it gets reinforced, over and over and over again. Social media, you get around the same people, watch the same TV shows and news feeds and whatever over and over again, and it reinforces that thing. So how do you, what are the tactics? What are the techniques to get out of that? Well, you literally got to practice. It's like, there's a science and an art to this, and the science part is kind of easy. I mean, you can really pick up a book and learn the science of it. Like, you can pick up a book and read about how to play guitar, right? I've been playing guitar for over 30 years, but it was through consistent practicing of chords and scales that I got to where I am now, which is still not very good, but but better than the day I started. So it's the same thing. Like, you want to get over your fear, you got to practice something that makes you afraid. Like, if you want to get over your fear of heights, start by standing on a chair, and then stand on a ladder, and then go stand on top of a 10-story building and look over the edge. You want to get over your fear of the way things have always been. Just do something small today, and then improve on that a little bit tomorrow and a little bit the next day. Like, don't try to eat the whole elephant at once. It doesn't work. You're gonna choke. Like, but if you come up with this idea, I want to do X, and you put it out there in the ether, and you've got it written down, and it's on your vision board and your goal sheet and all that stuff. Most people leave it there because all they can see is the mansion that they dream about, and they have no idea how to get there. I'm like, well, you know, like earn another $1 tomorrow and then $2 the next day. Like, do this thing little bit at a time.
So it's persistence and consistency.
Persistence and consistency, man. Like, I'll take that over just about anything else any day of the week.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about this. I just had, before this podcast recording, I met with one of my clients. We had some coffee, and we were talking about. So he just started his business. He's about 12 weeks into it, and I remember him sitting in my office here, and he's sitting on my couch, and he was like, "Listen, I'm retiring as a police officer. I'm going into this logistics business." So basically what he does is he transports cars from all over the country. So if somebody is going to live down in Florida for the winter, he'll take their cars down and bring them back. So it's a it's a car transport business, and he knew nothing about it. He just knew that there was money in it, but there were so many naysayers that, and it's so ironic that we're talking about this now on the show. But he said there were so many naysayers that was like, "Gary, why would you ever want to do something? That sounds like a nightmare." And he was just like, "But there's money in it, and I'm good on the." He was a highway patrol officer, so he's good on the road, So he was like, I just love that part of it. And he was like, "What else am I going to do?" It's what he said, which I thought was pretty humbling. And so we went and we began building his brand, and it's amazing to sit with him just 12 weeks later and hear him complaining in a good way how busy he is. And I was like, and it was just great. And he was like, "You know what? The only reason why I got here," he said, "is because I'm just out there grinding. I'm being consistent with my performance, and I'm being very persistent with wanting more business, getting more business, drumming up more business." And so that is the only way, guys, that your business or brand is ever going to take off. I wish I can tell you, and I wish I could have Joe tell you that if you just do this secret, your brand is going to explode and just take off. No, it has everything to do with consistency and being persistent and getting that right mindset. And so what Joe does is make sure that the folks that he's working with have a clear focus, and they got whatever's going on upstairs working at 12 cylinders, so that your brand and business works at 12 cylinders. Because you all know my story, whether you go back to past episodes and listen, or whether or not you're a new listener or not. Here's the deal. My mindset was so far up my head, and my ego was so far up my ass 5 years ago. There's no surprise why my business struggled and almost went out of business. And then when I invested in mindset coaching, everything changed. And that's why I was so wanting to get Joe on today's show, is because I wanted him to express the power of mindset and the subconscious mind, and how that plays a big role in your conscious mind. So, Joe, I don't know how deep you want to go in this. I mean, we could go I try to keep these to 30 minutes. So, but I don't know how deep you want to go, but I mean, we have about 8 minutes left. So if there's one big takeaway when it comes to developing the right mindset, so on top of being very consistent, on top of being persistent, on top of just getting out there and practicing a little bit each day, what's one home run that you can give that will get that ball rolling?
Oh man, you ask good questions. So the other thing I say to my clients all the time, consistently
Mm-hmm.
is these three words again: plan, schedule, execute. If you want to be persistent, if you want to be consistent, sit down every night, plan the next day, put it on your schedule. All right, write that shit down. Write it down. What do I have to get done tomorrow? So I have a list of 22 things that I do every single day without fail. These 22 things have to get done. Right. So I know every day when I sit down, I'm going to schedule these. Well, then something comes up and I got a podcast here with you. Right. So I got like 9 podcasts scheduled in the next 30 days or something like that. Plus I have clients, plus I have sales calls that I make. So all of these things have to get plugged into the schedule. And then I have to actually sit down. Look, I don't want to do it a lot of days. You know, people are like, oh man, you're living your dream. It must be great. Like, but you got to just dig in some days and find the will to get out of bed. I wake up at 5:30 every day. Like, dude, it takes a lot, man. Like, I live in New York City. Like, it's not easy to wake up at 5:30. If you've ever been here, like, it's not an early morning town. Like, there's a different vibe in the morning. It's hard. It's cold right now. So to be consistent, to be persistent, to develop that mindset so you can practice it over and over again, to get that subconscious mind, right, without going too far down the rabbit hole, to get that subconscious mind out of its, it's for most people it's stuck on repeat. It's like the same songs just playing over and over. They hit the loop button on their MP3, so it's just going over and over again. So how do you get out of that? You look at the things that are working, you plan those, you schedule those, you execute on them every day. And as you start to see those improvements and you're like, oh man, this thing is working. Like I do a lot of videos now. Like that's sort of become my thing, where I used to write a lot. Well, my writing started to fade. Like people weren't responding the same. So I had to find something else. So I started doing videos. So now you got to put that in there. And as soon as those started to, I put them online and they just kind of took off. Like your mindset will change. That subconscious mind then goes, oh, that fear, that thing that you were afraid of, that fear that you had about, people seeing you on camera and the way you sounded. Oh God, what if my hair's messed up? I have a video where I talk about like, I didn't want to do this because my hair looked bad because I had a bad haircut today. Like, so all these little things, you want to be persistent. You want to be consistent. You want to practice. And then if you want to actually change the mindset, you got to plan, schedule, and then the most important part is you've got to execute on it because you have to get it. I'm kind of a science nerd, so I'm going to go a little far in down the science rabbit hole, and you have to actually teach the muscles in your body, again, to go back to that playing a musical instrument. You have to teach your muscles and the bones and the cells of your body to do this new action. And when they get on board, right, when you've been doing it over and over again, all of a sudden, it seems like you're a really good, spontaneous musician who's just, playing this, this emotional song in the moment when really you've just been behind the scenes getting ready. So when you go into the office in the morning, boom, on point. When you show up at your sales call, boom, you're on point. You've done it. You've done the work. You've made it happen. So,
I want to leave with this. That was fantastic, Joe. I appreciate it. There's so much to unpack there with that last.
So much.
Yeah, with that last. So I'm going to let my audience unpack it and digest that. One of the things one of my mentors said to me one day was, structure leads to freedom. Yeah. And when I first heard that, I said, how? Doesn't make sense. Sounds like it's a oxymoron, quite frankly. And he was like, no, hear me out. So he gave me these frameworks to play with. And I started to watch other people in my niche that were very successful. And I listened and I watched and I listened and I watched. And I noticed they were able to crank tremendous amounts of content and just because they were working with these structured frameworks. So when they had an idea, they took the idea, plopped it into the framework, and let the framework just create it, and bam, and they were able to execute that much faster. So structure is what Joe's talking about. Plan, schedule, execute, persistence, practice, being consistent with it. Even when it's a rainy, snowy, cold 5:30 a.m. morning, get up and do it anyway. Because when you look back, you're going to be like, holy shit, look what I've accomplished. And that's going to propel you forward. I'm just looking back at this year of 2017. And if I wrote down all the things that I accomplished this year, like, it almost brings me to tears, because I can't even believe it. I really can't. And that is such a driving and motivating factor for me to take to 2018 and try to outdo my 2017. And so it's powerful stuff, guys. So real quick, Joe, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, you got a website, you got a link. Is there anywhere that you want to send them?
So the best place to start is just my website, which is joegaspard.com.
Easy. That's easy. And that's GASPARD as in David.com.
Correct.
joegaspard.com. Okay, great. So listen, Joe, I appreciate your time. We are on point with the time. Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. I will continue to follow you on LinkedIn, and I know that this isn't the last time you and I are going to be hanging out. I can almost sense it, and I can almost promise it. So guys, just some quick housekeeping stuff. If you haven't joined the Brand Doctors Hangout Facebook group yet, go over to Facebook right now. Go check that out. Just in the search query, type in the Brand Doctors Hangout. Come in and hang out with not only me, but 300 other like-minded entrepreneurs that are all trying to help each other build each other's business and brand. And if you haven't subscribed to this podcast yet or shared it with a friend or colleague, I invite you to do that too. And I appreciate and thank you in advance for doing that. So have an awesome, awesome day, guys. Hope you got some value out of today's show, and I will catch you on the next episode.
You've been listening to the Brand Doctor Podcast with Henry Kaminski Jr. To get your appointment with the doctor, visit Brand Audit at www.uniquedesignz.net.